on this episode of the Mad Rush podcast.
So I would say top 5, like there's things you're always going to need no matter where you live. If you're sharing things with the roommate, you're not going to share the mattress pad, right? Like there's certain things you're always going to need a doorstop, not only because those doors are heavy and metal, but also because it opens the door to communication when people are walking by, and it helps develop friendships with people that they wouldn't see you if your door was shut. I think that parents can start shopping now, believe it or not, because it doesn't matter if it's white twin XL sheets now or in August. Go ahead and get that stuff done. So then you can do the special things at the end, and you can spend summer with your kids and not running everywhere trying to find the stuff.
Welcome to the Mad Rush podcast. I'm Trisha Addix, the original sorority rush consultant. While the stories I have to share are nothing short of astonishing, this podcast goes beyond the wild client tales and sorority life. I'll be engaging with fascinating guests from both within and outside the Greek world, uncovering the surprising connections that bind us all together. Join me for a journey that's as entertaining as it is enlightening. Welcome to Mad Rush. So today on Mad Rush, I'm so excited to have my guest, Laurin Collar. She is a content creator on @TheCollarfind, but you'll find out more about that later. She's from Charleston, mom of 2, college sorority girls. So let's get to it. Charleston is covered in snow, and that is where you are, right?
We're covered in snow, and it is fun, but I gotta be honest with you, it's my first time as an empty nester. So it's a little different without little kids running that. We only get it like every 8 years. So it's been a little different this time.
It's weird, the empty nesting thing. It's weird, right? With the snow.
Yeah.
It's quiet and you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then I was just saying, I recently lost my dog, and there are a lot of dogs playing in the snow videos that I'm watching, and I'm very happy for those dogs, but I'm like, my dog would like to be playing in the snow too.
Oh, I know.
So anyway, we listeners and me are in for a great treat. Cannot wait to chat with Laurin. Laurin, tell everybody who you are, what you do, that kind of stuff.
So I'm Laurin. I'm from Charleston, born and raised, and I'm the face behind the account TheCollarfind. And TheCollarfind is exactly what it sounds like. I find things, whether it be an outfit, dorm room decor, what kids need to go to college, beauty supplies. I kind of find things for women in their 40s and up. And my love of the find began really early. I'm a former news anchor, TV meteorologist. And from that, I did pharmaceutical sales. Then I stayed home with my girls and started dabbling in this because I've always wanted to be on the hunt, whether it was the good story or the gift idea that was going to make the person really feel special. And so finally, I just put it all in one place, and I created TheCollarfind about 5 years ago.
I was about to ask. So it's been 5 years. Well, you have quite the following and very, very great taste. I'm a little obsessed with all your finds.
Well, thank you.
Where were you born and raised? What's your background?
Mount Pleasant, here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Parents, grandparents, all here. And then I left and went to Clemson. And then I came back and worked at the NBC station in Charleston. So I only have not been in Charleston the 4 years I was in college.
Whoa. Okay.
Oh.
So I have a group, I think I told you, a group text, and they are all in Mount Pleasant and Charleston area. And all the time. And I think I texted you or emailed you this. I was like, oh my God, I'm like craving Charleston. I love Charleston. I think Charleston is so cool. The food is amazing, just the vibe. And I'm a little obsessed with Darius Rucker, who I know lives in Mount Pleasant. Yeah. And I think he lives on the same street as one of the people in my group text, who I will not name. But yeah, Charleston's a great vibe. So talk to me about you have a huge following. How did that look for you? How did you start, because you're a news anchor, or how did that come about?
So no, my following, I was an anchor a long time ago, but I do think that it helped me as far as being comfortable on camera.
Right.
And I always had to, write stories that lasted this amount of time. So I was able to get those captions quickly and know what would catch people. But I'll be honest with you, this is hard. It is hard work. I work all day, every day. I work night. And I say yes to lots of opportunities that I think will help expand and grow and learn. And it's just over time, it's picked up and it's going. I found my people, I feel like. And that was
for sure. Yeah.
Finding my people. And it's definitely the reason the Collarfind started. I was watching an influencer. She was crying about turning 30. And I was 40 something. And I was like, come on, like there's got to be somebody more like me out there, like this is ridiculous. Not that she was crying, but I just felt like I needed someone that was in the stage of life I was. And so I hope that I fill that space. There's not a lot of us, but I hope that I fill it. And I definitely think people find me and they have that feeling of, oh, she gets it.
Right.
She's also having night sweats. She gets it. I'm a people.
That there's such a synergy between you. And yesterday, my podcast with Windsor Western, best name ever, dropped.
Best name ever.
I mean, ever, right? And she started her campus media, which is a media influencer conglomerate, for lack of a better word. And same thing. She said there were magazines that were focused on tweens, young girls like 17 and YM and all this stuff. And then you jump to Cosmopolitan where they're talking about sex and mortgages. So she was like, where's the representation for college girls? So it's kind of cool that I'm talking to you today because you both saw a need, a niche that wasn't being met. And that is very cool and very synchronic. Oh my God. I don't know how to say that. Whatever. It's cool
but I can't say
it. And yes, I can see when y'all see this video on YouTube, or if you do, you will see that she does look way younger. So maybe that's why the interwebs were targeting you with 30-year-olds because
last year in my 40s. This is the year I turned 50. So I'm trying to take advantage of everything.
Are you doing anything big for your 50th? Do you know?
I don't know that we'll do big. I'm doing lots of little trips. And I really just want to be with my girls. But there's 4 of us in our friend group turning 50 this year. We're the last 4 out of 10. So I'm sure we'll do something fun. Are
they all in Charleston also, or are they spread out?
This friend group is, yes. We started going to the beach when our kids were in kindergarten. We met through our kids. And so we still go every year. It's been kind of cool to see the evolution. And we've been through super exciting things and hard things and kids going to college and all of it. So it's nice to have that little support system.
Yeah, that's what I do. Find your people, support. Yep. So finding your friends through your kids is something super cool. And I talked about that on an episode about your college age kids, sorority sisters, parents. Like, have you made good friends through that?
Yes.
I think that's such a cool thing that didn't used to happen. Like I said, my parents, repeating myself ad nauseum here, but like dropped me off at college and then they didn't come hang out or go to football games or anything. They weren't involved, but now it's such a family thing. And I think that's I have a lot of my really close friends are through my kids' friends' parents and including in college. So I think that is cool, but it's also cool to have the people that you've known a long time too. So yeah. Summer silver, summer gold. That's a whole like song.
Sure. Yeah. We tailgate at every game. So that's been nice. We've always done that before the girls were there. But it's nice because we get to meet all of their friends too. They come to every tailgate. I know their favorite foods. And so it's been fun because I get to see their life in college on the weekends, which is nice.
Yeah. And that's also fun. We have some close friends who, and now we do it at Georgia, but for the longest time, they were a big Auburn alum and they had this tent and they would go, all their kids' friends would go to the tent. And they would know that they'd get to see their kids every weekend, but then get to know their friends in a way that it was really special and unique. And I do think that part is unique to like football. And I guess maybe it Carolina or UVA or Duke or somewhere it's basketball too. But anyway, or maybe now Auburn's number one in basketball. So who knows?
That's true.
So when you say you have college bound lists and finds,
Mm-hmm.
you're talking the parents are the ones buying it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it comes in the 40s to 50s. So can you give us some of your most tried and true college? I don't know why I'm struggling talking today. With the college bound tips that are some tried and true things that you think are universal that are good to know.
Yes.
And I'm putting you on the spot, but I feel like you can do it.
I got it. I feel like I live and breathe. So I'm redoing my website right now, TheCollarfind.com. It's still there. It's just getting ready to be shiny and prettier. And I'm doing each blog. So, and that's what I share. Starting in April, May, my page will have at least 1 to 2 dorm posts and reels because people need that content.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say top 5, like there's things you're always going to need no matter where you live. If you're sharing things with the roommate, you're not going to share the mattress pad, right? Like there's certain things you're always going to need a door stop, not only because those doors are heavy and metal, but also because it opens the door to communication when people are walking by, and it helps develop friendships with people that they wouldn't see you if your door was shut.
That is not to interrupt you, but I am. And you may know that this is what I do. I interrupt. It's not my favorite thing that I do, but I say that all the time. Keep your door open. Mm-hmm. That is the way. And I actually send people door stops as a result of someone on this podcast said that. And she was like, she knew someone who gave that as graduation gifts.
Yeah.
And so that's great.
We put a monogram on it probably, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they would have to be, because the ones I send are like $5. I'm like, I don't think I'm giving anybody a $5 graduation gift, but hey. Okay, so interrupted you. Sorry.
The first thing I would say to buy before anything are those blue bags. I've got them linked on my Amazon page. I think you have the direct link for that. They hold a ton. We still use them to this day. And then a little secret tip, and these are the kind of things I like to share along the way, is to have a ribbon tied to it so you know it's yours. So a follower last year came to me and she's like, okay, someone took our bags last year by accident, and it took all day to figure out who had whose blue bags, and they couldn't move into the dorm. So
brilliant.
That was someone came to me and said, please share this with your followers. And I was like, of course, that would be the worst nightmare. And so that's like a little tip that I've learned from experience to say, get your signature ribbon and tie it on there so no one else grabs it on the sidewalk when it's the mad rush of trying to get in the dorm rooms.
Mad rush. You're on mad rush today.
There you go.
Okay, so the ribbon, the door stop.
The air purifier, that's a non-negotiable right now. I think the flu's going around Clemson right now, the norovirus, anything you can do. And I really recommend the blue light one, the Mama Jamma, the big one.
Okay.
The little ones are great and all, but we're talking circulated air. They need the big guns in this thing, for sure. And then we sent our youngest, I mean, it's big. And I was trying to like make it pretty and hide it under a thing. And my husband kept bringing it back out. But he's like, well, you're going to have to look at it. We need this. But that's a definite, I think that parents can start shopping now, believe it or not, because
I believe it.
It's expensive, man. It's expensive. And if it doesn't matter if it's white twin XL sheets now or in August, go ahead and get that stuff done. So then you can do the special things at the end, and you can spend summer with your kids and not running everywhere trying to find the stuff.
Oh, that's great advice. Yes. The whole running around to Target and, I have a friend her kids were home for Christmas, and instead of being able to spend time with them, she's like running to Target because they didn't like their pillows and that, that kind of stuff. So that's really good advice too. You can spend that time, and you can spend that time preparing for rush. Just kidding.
Yeah, that's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah. So that's amazing. And those blue bags, we used to travel with our friends, Stephanie and Pete. They traveled with laundry baskets instead of luggage. And the IKEA, the blue bags, was a game changer.
They're great for beach vacations too.
Yeah.
Like if you're packing all those towels and sheets and all that, they're great for that.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I think you have such a unique, like we said, niche, because you're targeting our age or a little younger than me. parents. So what other like things that are really special and important that you think people should know about?
Well, I'm really talking on the Collar Find to parents of high school kids too, not just college kids, because there are some things that you need to do ahead of time. And so my definite advice this semester, the end, is to go to everything. And you know how that is. You want to go to every single thing. You don't want to miss a thing. Something I do at my graduation parties for my girls is we did little advice cards and had everybody fill them out. And then I did them in a binder, and my girls couldn't open them until their first night at school. And so that
I love that
they could open there. They were homesick. And it was all of this love for them from everyone in their community that had watched them grow. And so that's something that I think is special and they'll have forever.
Y'all heard it here. Listen, that's a great idea.
Thank you. The one thing I did that went super viral is the if-when box. I don't know if you saw it. I pack it for my girls right before they go to college, and it'll say, if you're having a bad day, open this. And it may be a picture of the dogs. Or if it's first game day, open this, and it's buttons for them to wear. So I do an if-when box for my girls. And I think that's something, again, you don't have to do it, but it's sentimental and it's special, and they always remember it. And my junior in college still gives me her empty box to fill it for the next year, which means to me that it means something, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great.
So I just share things
so like how many if-when things are in there?
You want. It could be 5. It could be totally what you want. If it's before rush, I wrote my youngest a letter and said, open the night before bid day. And it was like, you land where you're supposed to. This is all going to work out. Even though I didn't know what her rush life was going to be like, you have no idea. I knew that night before feeling, and I knew that the nerves she was going to have. So it could be 2 or 3. It could be whatever you want it to be.
Okay, I'm totally stealing that. I'm literally, just so y'all know, listening, I'm writing this down. Okay, letters from home during rush. That's amazing. And such, and it's so, the emotions that week are so high that's a gift right there. And I'm totally copying it. I'm going to give you credit, but I'm copying.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm not sad that we're not going through rush again.
Yeah, no, nobody is. I mean, even if your daughters have it all going on and they're the most confident and you're sure of their connections, it's still stressful. It doesn't matter. It's stressful for everybody, and it's uniquely stressful for the parents. I think people don't understand how much you want something for your children until you go through it, and how that feeling as a mom, you want things better, to work out for your kids, and you want things to be better for them than they were for you, even if you had them good. So and you just don't have that much control over it.
You don't. And I even think it's stressful. This is a good stress, but when they can't decide, that's hard too, because as much as you're blessed to have that issue, they're thinking, what if I make the wrong decision? Mm-hmm. And then this past year, we had a big sister, little sister situation. And so some people thought, automatically. And I'm like, well, you haven't met this little sister. She didn't even want the same first grade teacher. Like, she's always on her own. And so that was an added element too of managing both sides. Yeah. And sure both were happy. So after this year's rush, my husband and I were like, whew, okay, done. Check. We're done with that one.
And the strategy is different too. So we do a lot of talking, like if you had been my client, or if y'all had been my client, a lot of times people in the sororities think, oh, she's definitely going to be whatever. So there is a strategy for if you have an in-house sister, if you want to consider all different options and not just have that assumption made about you. So that's a tough thing. But then it is a tough thing for the older sister. If the younger sister doesn't want to do the same thing, then there's a whole family dynamic thrown in there too, like you said. So that adds a layer of stress, especially for you, because you're making sure both of them are.
I was worried about the older more than the younger on certain days.
Yeah, for sure. And she's the one that's in the sorority.
And she was one, but I think she was, you forget they get that pressure of your sister's going to go this, right? Like they get that a little bit too. So she was like, what do I do? And I'm like, she's got to land where she's supposed to. You were given the opportunity to land where you wanted to. You got to let her do the same. they ended up the same one. And I love that. And it's so sweet. And the bid day pictures were amazing.
Oh, I bet.
I really believe you land where you're supposed to. I really do.
And I think that makes it so special for the families. So I have boys, don't have girls, ironically. But when they would play on the same team, they were both really into sports, like many boys. And they're very close in age. So the younger one always played up in the older one's teams. And it was so fun just to have it all in one place. It was like my happiest moments were when I would watch them thrive together and do things together. And sure, you would have been happy for your younger one if she was in a different place, if that's where she wanted to land or found her fit. But it's super cool to see them together, I'm sure.
It's neat. It is.
And yeah, so I was thinking about the synergy between you preparing people to go off to college or preparing their parents, telling them to buy, and also mine. I think there's so much synergy between what we do. I'm hearing dinging. I don't know. That may be me.
It's me. It's a tried out mom texting me.
Okay, that's all. No, that's good. That's awesome.
We're planning a mother's weekend, and it's a doozy.
Oh, where are y'all going?
We're just doing there's like 30 of them that live in the same apartment complex. So we're doing a mother-daughter weekend for the junior girls that all live together. So there's 3 moms coordinating it. And Clemson's little. There's just not a lot of places to do stuff. So it's tricky. But yeah. I'm going to silence it.
No, that's good. But so the mom that you segued right into what I wanted to talk about. Okay. The mom-daughter dynamic is so fraught with even in the very best relationships, going through rush, preparing for college. There's so many emotions. Do you have any advice for parents? I obviously give a lot of advice to the girls and try to keep the moms out of the rush equation just because it doesn't seem to work very well. But do you have any advice for moms who are about to embark on this senior spring, and besides things to buy, but I mean, you've lived it. So
one thing, actually, one of my daughter's best friends was over here. This was last summer. And she said, I almost feel guilty. I'm going to school. My mom just keeps saying how sad she's going to be.
Oh, yeah.
The mom didn't mean that.
Right.
But it was reflecting on her that she couldn't get as excited as she wanted to get. And so that struck me because I'm sure I was doing the same thing. So definitely, instead of focusing on the lasts, focus on the firsts. It's going to be your first football game as a student, as opposed to it's the last time we're going to see you on a Sunday night at 6. Try and shift that perspective for their sake, because they're already a nervous wreck. They're sad too. And I think when we put those honest, real emotions on them, which they are, sometimes if they're fragile and they're already a nervous wreck, that's too much.
That is great advice.
And I didn't think about that until literally the girl said, I feel guilty. And I said, you cannot feel guilty. This is your time. She doesn't want you to feel guilty, but it's just hard because as the mom, your appendage is leaving. You feel like part of you is leaving. They are. So that would be some advice. Here's a trick. If they get to college and they're not responding to texts, if you've got an animal, if you've got a pet, they will always respond to a picture of a pet. So that is my little sneaky trick. Always works.
Yeah.
Now, I've got one that texts me good night and good morning, actually both, almost every single day. So I've been very lucky. And they did it. But every now and then, if I'm feeling a little lonely and I just grab a picture of the dog, I know I'll hear from them both immediately. And then that's all I need to keep moving through the day. So that's a little trick.
That's a great trick. And I cannot tell you, I know exactly. One, I think the morning and night text, I think I would be in the hospital if my boys did that. My boys are the sweetest and they're so sweet to me and so thoughtful, but that's just not the way they communicate. But yes, if I send a picture of the dogs, I didn't really even think about it like that, but that is true for sure. And I feel like the advice is so good. I remember hearing one time when I guess it was my youngest, was out of town, and I heard from my friend Kirsten, who had recently gotten divorced, and she said she heard to not tell your kids you miss them, because that puts, so I would, like, when my youngest was out of town, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but I remembered this. And so I didn't say I miss him, because that made him think, I hope you're having a great time. We're having a great time here. It's going to be great to see you. It's sort of like you said, reframe it that if you say, I miss you, then they're thinking about you being sad without them. So it's basically the same thing. And that was a good lesson, but that is really good advice. And it's also, as parents, becoming an empty nester is one of the hardest things that we can do, and having ways and tools to navigate that so it doesn't affect your children. Because like you said, they're going to get to college, they're going to be homesick, and they're going to be missing you, and not adding extra things to that is a really good advice before they go and when they're there. Dad and I are having a great time, or I'm having a great time with my friends going out. So they're not thinking that you're sitting around crying, which you probably are at some points, but they don't need to know that.
Right. I was talking to someone yesterday, her child is in 9th grade, and she's like, what's the one thing? And I said, get a hobby now. And I was like, you don't want to say, okay, when they go to school, I'm going to take up Mahjong or whatever, because then you already don't have it in place. And so for me, it was the TheCollarfind that is not just a hobby, but a business. But I don't know what I'd do without it. So I think, whether you were thinking about tennis or you're thinking about a side gig, when those kids are sophomores, juniors in high school, that's the time to kind of embrace it, because it fills that void when they're gone, as opposed to trying to start something new when you're already a little fragile.
Yes. And fragile is a great word for that. I remember my aunt said this to me, I think it was just last year. She said, I did not think you were going to be okay when your boys went to college. And she said, it's crazy to me how well adjusted you are. Nobody knows how I feel, but having the business and all these projects that I'm doing, it really does make it easier. And that was in place at least my younger one, the business, when he was in high school. So that's great advice too. All this advice is great, because yes, it is. I have friends who are now like, wait,
what do I do?
My kids are out of the house. I get that a lot from people. And I am not at all saying I've got it all going on, but I don't have that. I don't have the, what do I do thing.
Right.
Because I have, established this, a while ago. So that is great advice. And I also hear that same thing, when my daughter goes off or when my son goes off to college, I'm going to start doing this. But so that's great advice.
Yeah. I'm kind of flip-flop. So I call it Operation Busy is what I call when I drop the two off at school. And that's when I say yes to anything, not anything, but in Charleston, influencer events are 2 to 3 a week. It's crazy. Now, summer and my daughter's senior year, I said pretty much no to everything, because I kept saying, if I say yes to this, I'm saying no to time with her. And it may be her walking through the den like they do that senior year, and you get those 5 minutes, but I wanted those 5 minutes. And so once they go to school, I shift from no to yes, and I start saying yes to more things, because I know I need to stay busy. So I kind of just, if they're not here, I say yes to a lot, and it works.
Yeah. So you have like 2 to 3 events a week?
Charleston's it's nuts. There are more influencers here than I think most places. And so
really?
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
All the time, because everybody's moving to Charleston, really. And I'll be at events with TikTokers that I'm not on TikTok really. And it's crazy. It's crazy, the event. And even now, like even Target did an influencer trip here. Like Charleston's just the hot spot right now.
I see why.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, but especially obviously this week it's slow, and I even have like a group of influencer friends, and we go to lunch, and that's all we have in common. We're all different ages, but we're in this business. That's how many live here.
Wow. And Charleston's, pretty small for that, but yeah, I do think it's cool. Do you know the Southern Charm people?
Kind of. I mean, I love watching it.
You don't have to. You don't have to
I
answer
don't
that.
know them. I mean, I've seen them around, and we like watching the show because we see Charleston places, and honestly, it's like a comedy sometimes. Like we
It
just go,
really
like,
is.
"Did you say that?" But yeah, they're not in my circles necessarily. However, there's one girl that she was on a few two that were on a few seasons ago that I see at events that I love.
I think I can. I bet you I can guess who that is because I've watched it since the inception.
Yeah.
And my husband was a Chi Phi at the University of Georgia, and Shep Rose was also a Chi Phi at the University of Georgia. And I remember messaging him like one of the very beginning seasons because he kept referencing Georgia and his fraternity, but he didn't say what it was. And finally, I was like, I'm just dying to know which one he was in, just because I thought I could figure it out. And that's one of my superpowers. Not that I have so many, but one of my superpowers, especially with my clients, is I can look at them and I know the sorority so well, and I get to know them so well that I'm batting 1,000 with figuring out where they're going to land.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it is cool, and I write it down. And I'm writing this book, and I'm making myself another note. I need to put that in the book. But so I pegged Shep as a Chi Phi. So I messaged him, and I didn't say that. I just said, "What fraternity were you in?" And he responded, "I was a Chi Phi with all the other like-minded SOBs," was his exact response. And I thought that was funny. But yes, so Charleston, like I said, I'm clamoring to get there to be. I told you I'm coming, and I'm gonna be one of those 2 to 3 events you have.
Come on, I'll bring you with me. They always let you bring people. You can be my +1. We'll have fun.
That would be so much fun. I'm in. I'm planning it now, for sure. I think your advice goes way past like so yesterday. Backing up, yesterday I had her campus media person that I was just talking about on my podcast. She was talking about influencers, Windsor Western, saying her name again because it's so cool. She was talking about influencers on college campuses and how you guys are really, that is the way to do sales now. Like she was saying, you don't respond to an ad. I don't even watch ads or look at ads. And I just fast forward through if I'm watching TV, and I don't look at them on my computer. But of course I look at them on Instagram, and I follow you, and she was saying, yeah, that's the only way to get your products known, and there's that's such a unique thing to our time in this world. And you've been doing it for a pretty long time.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I've had 2 companies reach out and say, "We love your content. Do you think your daughter would work with us?" Because they know
really?
my youngest has started a page. She's not she doesn't have time, but they wanted her to wear their jewelry, and they wanted her to wear their pajamas. And I was totally fine with that. I was like, yeah, that's your target audience. I can sell it to the mamas.
Right.
But, and so they sent her stuff, and they paid her, and she posted it. And so at Dillard's this year, they did an entire whole campaign with college campuses where they sent them clothes, and that the college girls would wear the clothes. I mean, I'm seeing businesses really want to pull in those college girls as much as I have a niche my age for women over 40 what we're wearing and how we're doing skincare and beauty, but that's a whole new niche, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger.
I agree. And she was talking about Clinique. So you're much younger than me, but she was saying that Clinique was known as like an older brand.
Yeah.
So they rebranded and sent stuff to college kids to give out as samples, like your daughter, to give out as samples, and that has changed their entire business. And college girls can change the world. I'm telling you. I mean, you can too, but college girls can change the world. And I think that is one of the things that I am so inspired by my clients who are like these strong, smart, really with it people. I mean, I tell people all the time, these resumes, I'm sure your daughter's resumes were amazing. I went to Georgia with a 2.6 and skipped tennis practice. I didn't, I was on the tennis team, but I just wouldn't go to practice, or sometimes I would skip class. But these people have it going on, and they're making a real difference.
They are. I have to say, though, the stress they're under is wild, I think, compared to what we were. It's a lot. I mean, from the rush aspect to the just getting into college and then that wait, it's a lot on these kids.
I agree. And I'm interested to hear your theory on that too, because that is one of the scariest things to me is the pressure. And I do see, I tell people all the time that you have to set yourself apart in a way, because everybody's got a resume like that. But in order I'm talking rush specific now, you have to kind of set yourself apart in some ways. But then that is also scary advice. Like, what more can they do?
Right.
It's in what I say and what I preach and what I coach is the communication and the connections and listening and being present in the moment, which I think is really hard for these kids this age because they've got social media and they've got so many demands. Like you said, your daughter's so busy, she can't really do all the things that she could do. But it's just, I'm interested. Why do you think that why do you think this pressure is happening? Do you know?
I think it starts early on. I mean, when we were growing up, we didn't really have the travel sports, and now they're trying to get on those. I mean, it's just a constant. And I think that there's some classes, like at my daughter's high school, her class was incredibly competitive. The class below maybe isn't as much. And so I think that's part of it, that they push each other too.
That's a good point.
I think it's just a combination of things, but something you said that connections in rush, I think they're so important these days more than they were back then. Do you? I don't know. I feel like connections can't be overlooked during the whole process, but.
Right. And that is another thing that we work really hard on before rush is helping our clients find ways to connect. And I get a lot of DMs from people or questions from people who are like, wait, my daughter's really shy. She's not going to do well in rush. And that is not the case. But you just have to work on what you were just saying.
So I think if you've got someone going through rush that isn't overly comfortable just talking about everything, small talk isn't their favorite thing. There may be deep thinkers. I recommend pretending you're on a tennis court and that ball. So if the ball is on they've asked you a question, send that ball right back to them and ask a question back. And that way there's a flow in the conversation instead of just answering it saying, yeah, I'm from Charleston. Where are you from? Have you ever been there? So that's what I think helps. If you just in your mind think this is like a tennis game, this is like a tennis match, and keep that ball going court to court, side to side, then it keeps the conversation flowing. You just have to kind of look at it a different way because you're going to have to do it when you're going through rush, whether it's your comfort zone or not, you're going to have to do it.
And that's such a good skill for later on. And I wrote down tennis match because that is something that we work really hard on is conversation skills, not necessarily like, I don't like it when people, no, I don't like it. That's not it. But when people say, what am I going to be asked this round? I'm like, let's not concentrate on that, because then if they ask you something different, then you're going to be thrown for a loop. But what we're going to work on is listening and then asking questions and then listening and then asking questions, which is just like you said, the tennis ball. But connections, to get back to your question, connections are so important. And there are so many ways that you can work on connections beforehand. If you don't know anybody at your school where you're going, there are lots of hints that we give you and help you figure out how to make some connections and then make connections with the people you're going through rush with. So then you have friends, even if they don't end up in your same house, you've still made connections. And that is, I should have it tattooed on my forehead. Connections. It's connections. And I'm not talking about you have to have someone that you know is your best friend that's in the sorority already. It's making connections between people. That's what makes it go around. What makes the world go around and makes you find your fit, which is really all you want to do.
I think it even goes to where they live in their freshman year.
Oh, yeah.
Like my daughter's dorm is mostly South Carolina girls, all were going through Rush. And so, I mean, it's this instant friendships. And there's other dorms at Clemson that a lot of people that are there aren't going through Rush. So I think it's important to look at that before you even go to school, wherever you're going, and say, okay, where do I want to live? Where I think a lot of people I'm going to have a lot in common with.
That's great advice, because she's so right, y'all. So many schools have, like, where you live geographically is really can not make or break, but it really can add to the
experience.
Change your experience and make the connections thing. There are, I'm sure if you're listening and you went to Ole Miss, there are a guy's dorm and a girl's dorm right next door to each other. And that's where primarily the Greek people go. And then I'll have someone who maybe was not sure they were going to go to Ole Miss. And so they go later and they can't get into those dorms or that dorm. And adds a hurdle. So that's a great advice, y'all. Research. Mm-hmm. Talk to me because I know pretty much all the dorms at all the schools, but research where the Greek community dorms are. And I also think that sometimes I get people who are like in the honors college somewhere and they are trying to decide between the honors dorm or the more social dorm, for lack of a better word.
Right.
And I always say go social. If you want to be in a sorority, if you can, that's, but that's great advice. And that's something that you guys should do from this brilliant person with whom I am talking, because she's got some really good advice. I feel like you could kind of do what I do, and I could not do what you do. Nobody wants me to influence them.
Oh, I think you'd be great.
You have to say that. You're on my podcast.
You've got knowledge to share, and everybody wants to learn, and everybody wants to have someone they relate with.
So, and I will say that you mentioned earlier that you work all the time. I have a friend who is on this Charleston chat, and she's a business owner, and she posted something recently. It was so funny. It said, I'm glad that I wanted to run my own business so I had flexibility. And now that just means I work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yeah. And that's so true. Like, I don't like leave the office and then, I'm talking to parents and talking to, all day long, every day. So yeah, your advice is amazing. So talk to me about your website, what's going on with that. She was very gracious. Right now, I asked her to be on this podcast, and she's kind of in the middle of these projects. So I'm very grateful that you made the time to do this while you're in the middle of these projects. So I'm very excited to hear about them.
So you can go to TheCollarfind.com now. It's just, honestly, I built the website by myself during COVID with a 5-page, here's how to do it. So you can probably tell that I'm not a tech girl at all. And so finally, as I've grown, it's time to have something shiny and pretty, that's more user friendly. So I'm working with a team and we're building the website. So it's going to have like an entire section just for college bound with each, here's what the dorm bed needs. Here's what the dorm closet needs. So it's coming. It'll have a downloading packing list. It'll have all of that, but it'll also have my Amazon finds. I'm an Amazon influencer because let's be honest, we're all ordering stuff from Amazon all the time.
Absolutely.
And so because I love to find things, will go through, and I'm picky. Like if it's the thing at the bottom that says frequently returned, I will not link it. If it's something that I've ordered and it's a shirt and I don't like it, I will not link it. I'm pretty picky. It's just my style and taste for the most part, but I'll have a link to all of my Amazon finds, and that's from beauty to dorm room to home decor, you name it. And it'll have my recipes. I love an appetizer.
Me too. I've been given a birthday party before that was just appetizers. Oh. Like it was like 4 girls and they're like, do you want to go out to dinner? I was like, really rather have, and like my friend, Jeff Payne, if you're listening to this, it's a joke. Like he's like, if we go out to dinner with Trisha and Greg, we're going to have 7,000 appetizers. And I love to make them. So you have recipes? Is that what you're saying?
I do a few recipes. It's how I started, actually. And then this page has just evolved through the years. It went heavy fashion. It's heavy college bound. It's just where I am in life, honestly. I'm not making a bunch of dinners right now. It's just me and Billy, but I do a lot of appetizers for friends and stuff like that. So thecollarfind.com it should mid-February. You can still go to it now, but it'll be shinier and prettier. And when you go there, you can sign up for my newsletter, which I highly recommend because it's once a week. It's 5 favorite finds, and it can be a soup recipe that's not even mine. It could be the book that I just finished that was so good. It could be my favorite sweater I found on sale. It's a little bit of everything.
Oh, that's amazing.
I would recommend the newsletter. I don't bombard you, I promise. And then thecollarfind.com, the TheCollarfind on Instagram at TheCollarfind I'm on it every day, either in stories or on my feed. I'm sharing things. It's real life. And so it's definitely the easiest way to link into me, but you just want to make sure that you're doing the newsletter or another way to get to me as well.
That is so great. The listeners of this podcast are going to be very excited because you're talking to them. You're talking to the moms and they're, of the people that are about to go through rush and are about to leave for college. So there's a lot of synergy there. I'm so grateful that you're on here and giving your advice. And I don't think I'm signed up for your newsletter. I'm about to be.
I need to send you a link. I need to put a link.
Well, I'll find it. I can do it. So we're going to do this. I'll be interested to see if you did your homework.
I did my homework. I always did my homework.
Okay, so Bama Rush popularized the hashtag OOTD outfit of the day. For Mad Rush, I'm repurposing hashtag OOTD into observation of the day. So what is Laurin Collar of TheCollarfind's hashtag observation of the day?
Oh my gosh, I really spent time on this.
That makes me so happy. So sometimes people are like, oh, wait. And then they're like, there's like dead air. I'm like, okay, did you not get the assignment? Of course.
My observation of the day is it's almost like a word of the day. It's embrace. And by that, I mean, if you're a mom of a senior, embrace every second. If you are where we are with kids in college, embrace where you are and enjoy things. Find things you enjoy instead of looking back. So I was kind of the one in college that was ready for the next step, always ready for the next step. And it's taken me years to realize you just need to embrace where you are and enjoy where you are. So that's my observation.
That is a great observation and words to live by for sure, or a word to live by. And I love that. And I am so honored and excited that you were here. I cannot wait for my listeners and me to get all the finds because you're really going for quality. Y'all, she's not, she's picky, which is what you want to be. I mean, and I feel like that would dilute, I know we're done, but I feel like that would dilute your, not credibility, because you have credibility regardless. But I feel like finding someone who's really putting a lot of thought and effort into it sets you apart, meaning you, Laurin, sets you apart from a lot of other people. And that is really something I can get behind and recommend and be something that you should be super proud of, because there are a lot of people who are faking it. And I'm not trying to be negative about them, but it's really inspiring to have someone who's putting in the work for us so we don't have to.
That's the job. I'm trying to save busy moms time and money.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. And y'all go to her new shiny website and follow her on Instagram, and you will not regret it.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Time Out with Trisha. Because can you really give advice if you don't speak about yourself in the third person? I don't think so. This is exactly how I speak to my clients. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. Now let's get into it. So Laurin Collar had some great advice for high school seniors heading off to college, and I'm excited to share her lists with you when they're out. And you can also, obviously, as she said, go to her website and her Instagram. But I want to give you a list of my own. So today we're going to talk about the top 5 ways to tank your chances in rush. And these top 5 ways also apply to if you are visiting people this spring. So if you're a high school senior, listen to this before you go to visit your college. First thing is gossiping. Do not gossip about sororities, about people. This should just be a way to live regardless, but that's an important thing. Number 2, listening to rumors. Don't listen to what people say about sororities, about other people. Make up your own mind. You have the power to do that, and you should use it. Don't act bored. Acting bored is annoying and off-putting, and don't do it. Be engaging. Engage with the people that you're with. Being exclusive. Nobody likes a snob. No one wants to hang out with somebody who's conceited. And even if you do want to hang out with the cool girls or be exclusive, if you act like that, even to those people, it's very off-putting. Don't do it. Lastly, number 5, don't compare yourself to others. You are uniquely you. You have gifts that no one else has. So own that, be confident in who you are, and that will help you in rush and in every aspect of life. And that's it for Time Out with Trisha. We'll see you on another episode of the Mad Rush Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Mad Rush Podcast. If you are enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star review. For additional Rush tips, updates, and more, please follow me on Instagram at RushWithConfidence. If you would like to reach out to us or for more information, please email info@madrushpod.com. This podcast is produced by Collier Landry and Don't Touch My Radio. Copyright Trisha Adams.